And now for our Speakers Bureau Chair, Bill Pieper, introducing today's speaker. Bill?
Thank you, sir. I am delighted to introduce a gentleman I have known almost as long as I've been in Orlando, and he's done great things. Since 2004, Alan Johnson has served as the Chief Venues Officer for the City of Orlando. Those venues include Amway Center, Camping World Stadium, Tinker Field, Harry P. Lou Gardens, the Manila Museum of American Art, as well as the Bob Carr Performing Arts Theater. So he has his hands full. He holds a BA in psychology from the University of Central Florida, is a certified venue executive and certified public manager designations. Those are significant designations if you are in the profession of managing public facilities. Please join me in welcoming Alan Johnson. And while he comes forward, you'll notice he's limping. He is 2 weeks out from a hip replacement, so we're going to have him sit down and relax.
Thank you. I'm going to try to stand for a little while and then sit and then walk around, if that's okay too. I'm honored to be here, and thank you, Bill, for the introduction. There's a little part about Bill that he didn't tell us. We both were opened up the Orange County Convention Center many years ago in 1983 when I worked out there. So I'm happy to be here and pleased to be here on behalf of Mayor Dyer and the city commissioners, and to talk about what we've done, what we're doing, and what we hope to do. So, and I'd be happy if there's a slide that you want to stop and ask a question about. Do that. I don't mind I'll get back on track, or I'll tell a whole nother story. So it's up to you. I have all afternoon. I'm kidding. I have a 2 o'clock appointment. So the first one, let's go to the next one. Thanks. So what's unique about the city of Orlando is many things, but we're the only city in the NBA or NHL that owns and operates the arena. The only city that owns and operates an NBA arena. So why that's significant? It means that the investment that the city and the public made back in 2008 to the venue, it was never a debate that the Orlando Magic were going to operate the team, or I'm sorry, operate the venue. They did put in $62 million toward the construction, but the mayor and the city commissioners wanted it to be a publicly owned venue. Why it's important is if you go to other cities, Tampa and Jacksonville, and not picking on those places, or Miami, you won't see high school graduations in the main arena because it's not profitable. But we do it because we're a public venue. And I also will say things about graduations as they're coming up. It's the one event that we have more local people in the building than any other event, if you think about it. So that's a couple of distinctions. Others is public record laws. So sometimes when I'm negotiating a deal for a big show, my competitors can find out information about that deal. That's the downside about that. We try to find ways to not break the law, but to stay within the boundaries of that. So, and also it's unusual for one entity to operate all the venues in a market. So it's usually a team will operate like in Tampa, Raymond James is operated by an authority, but the Bucks have a big say. Of course, the Rays operate the Tropicana Field, and the Lightning operate Amalie Arena. Whereas here, we operate Camping World Stadium, all the fields around there. So two unusual things that are and it works here. I'll say this: nobody's duplicated what we've done. They might have built them that way and then farmed them out. So that's a little bit of trivia there for that. Next one. So we just completed. Well, I'll cross my fingers. 99%, $60 million plan, totally funded by tourist development taxes at Camping World Stadium. So the $60 million, we went inside, and let's go to the next slide. There you go. And you see the green. That's the sidelines. We added a new club there, club level. One of the things we found out is fans want more and different amenities and different price point amenities. So we added those two on the side. The orange is the North Plaza deck. If you remember, prior to 2014, prior to 2014, the north end zone was open, and then in 2014 we built a lower deck in there as we filled in the whole other decks on top. We came back in this program, the $60 million, and added seats on top there. So if you've been there lately, the building is completely symmetrical around. It looks very nice. In fact, Garth Brooks commented about one of the nicest stadiums he played in because he liked that. The other thing that happened, is that we put in new turf, we replaced the video boards, and then we spent a couple $1 million outside in the parking lots. And I hate to call them parking lots because they're basically grass lots that are used for sporting events, for festivals. So they have multi-purpose. So they're not just for parking. So it's hard to balance out. If it was just parking, we'd just pave over it, which I don't like to do anyway, but that would be the easiest way to control water and rain and mud and things like that. So those are all projects that we just completed. Again, some people ask why we did this so quickly after doing what we did in 2014. And by the way, in 2014, the only levels that were still left in place, so everything else is brand new below this, and I will walk over and point, is these levels up here were the only thing that's been left prior to 2014. Everything else is brand new that's up there. So it was a pretty amazing project. But I'll tell you a simple story is that when there were negotiations for the 3 venues, and I think if those of you who've been around here a while know that in 2007, 2008, when we were getting through the process of getting approval, there were 3 venues: the Performing Arts Center, Camping World Stadium at the time called Citrus Bowl, and then the new Amway Center. Amway Center was going to cost about $380 million. The DPAC was going to cost that and then some. And then the Camping World started out with a project that cost $250 million to do everything we wanted to do. Well, that project got reduced to 175 to get a county commissioner's vote to approve it. So it took a haircut in the beginning. So this was kind of makeups back to get them into the stadium back to where it was supposed to be when we did this. So a little better picture of what we did in there, gives you a little better the seating, the color, the naturality. A lot of concession stand improvements, points of sale. That's where we make most of our money nowadays is ticketing fees and concessions. So we add a lot of things at the stadium to make that modern and to make it better and convenient. If you haven't been there recently, we hosted Billy Joel and Garth Brooks. Not the same night, of course, but and we had 70,000 people there for Garth Brooks. Second event to WrestleMania is our highest attendance. Garth Brooks is the largest concert event we've had there. This one I always like to show because I've seen so many of you that attend it in this crowd. And this is EDC Orlando. Thank you for being awake. I thought the singing got to you, but it was good. It's our largest event that we have. We had 95,000 people over per day, and it's everything but inside the stadium itself. So no people go inside the stadium. All those 95,000 people surround it. It's about $100 million economic impact, and I'm here to dispel some rumors. So I would invite you to come out. So first off, it's not a drug rave. It's not that. It's not that at all. It starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and ends at midnight every night. If they go to 12:01 with the music, they owe me $10,000. At 12:10, they owe me $20,000, or the city, excuse me. I don't get it personally. They've always stopped at 11:59. They've never gone past that. They've been here 10 years. The economic impact of that is tremendous. I mean, $100 million. That's not. And Bill, being in the business, we know how the economic numbers are done. This was done through the Visit Orlando system, so we kept it conservative. And they're coming back this year. This will be their 11th year. Our capacity this year could go to 110 or 115,000. And again, we have it's an amazing operation there. Just to let you know, we actually have a fully functional emergency room there. And the emergency room is really for a couple of reasons. One is, if you've ever been in the medical field, when you call for an ambulance, EMTs and paramedics, they really only do 2 things. They stabilize you and transport you. They don't fix you, right? They stabilize and transport. So what was happening is somebody was dehydrated. They're throwing them on a gurney, out they go, and we were clogging up Orlando Health and Advent Health and the hospitals around with people who are just dehydrated or even exhaustion. So what we do now is we have doctors there that actually will treat that patient. So they diagnose and give them a diagnosis of his dehydration. We have 3 different wings in there. And then we take care of the patients there. So where transports went from 20 an hour to 20 a day. So it was a tremendous help to the hospitals. It got the festival goers back out to have more fun, but it was a way to save and do that. And we all do that self-contained on that site. So a lot of people ask us, March 11th of 2020, all of our worlds changed, right? I don't think, not a person in this room that life didn't change on March 11th or around that date. So ours especially, because think about it. Nobody could come to the venues. No shows were traveling, no sports were happening. So we decided to pivot and do a couple things. One is we operate Lou Gardens, And there were some questions about, we closed Lou Gardens for maybe a week. And I was talking to the mayor and I said, Lou Gardens is 60 acres. It's plenty of room. Let's let people go out there, because we didn't know how it was being spread, right? We all thought things were, you could touch or get it from things like that. So we opened up Lou Gardens. And then I had a couple employees who, rightfully so at the time, said, we don't want to collect the money to charge people to come in. And I said, you know what? Good idea. Let's make it free. So we made it free. We had our highest attendance ever. But what we got out of that was had people join because they liked going out there. They discovered the gardens and they became members. So it worked out really well for us. But it was one of those things that we did. So we also did the PPE distribution for Advent Health. They paid us money to rent the arena floor. If you think about it, we have 6 loading docks that are made to move shows in and out in one day. Like this morning at 6 a.m., Journey came in with, I think they have 15 semis that are unloaded by now. And we'll do it again tonight. They'll load them back up. So Advent Health approached us and said, we need a place like that where we can move things in and out. So we did that for, I figured how many days, April to May, a 44-day operation. So again, we weren't just, we couldn't put shows on, but and when I offered up even to the mayor, I said, well, put us somewhere else. If we need help picking up trash, we will go do that. My team is that active. They don't want to be, they want to be employed, because a lot of venues didn't have that opportunity. A lot of them just got furloughed right off the bat, especially that work for teams. Many of my friends and colleagues, some retired early, some waited out, some came back after a few months. So that was one thing we did. We also did early registration and early voting, something we've never been able to do because we don't have 30 days open, or there should be a new director if we do, in October. We never have 30 days open to continuously be able to vote. This is the first time we're able to do that. We did that gladly and supporting the voting effort, but I'm not sure we'll be able to ever do that again. This one's probably the most popular one from some of you. I see you smiling. So we did the Thunderdome residency, 119 days. Wrestling didn't stop because of the COVID. They didn't, they still had to put a product. They had agreements with TNT and TBS. So every Monday and Friday they put on a wrestling match there. No audience. They had the TVs. If you can see all the TVs on the side there, they had TVs. So it was a live audience. They still paid their pay-per-view and they still made their obligations to TV. So again, our people were still working that event without the public coming in. So this is something I always like to put up. People ask me this. So Eagles on February 24th is now our highest grossing show. Bocelli holds down the bottom 3 slots. And this is probably more impressive, and since the pandemic. So all of our food and beverage records now have been broke in the last 6 months. So we reopened in August of last year with shows for the public, other than the Magic games last year with limited attendance. So I don't mean to discount those, but we're limited to 4,000 people or less. It just wasn't the same. But once we started back up in August with no restrictions on attendance, these are the things that have happened, and a trend we've noticed. People are coming earlier, and they're spending money like it's their last day on earth, which we're appreciative of, and we want them to continue doing that. But we've never seen such high per caps than we have. Another thing that happened, and this is not a good thing, is that there's probably 6 to 8 restaurants that are on Church Street near us that didn't make it through the pandemic. They just, the business wasn't there, the shutdown crippled them. So now people are saying, let's go to the arena, we can get in there and we get food and beverage, and we can park safely in the Geico garage. And so we're doing really well at that, and that's helping out. Next. This little slides shows you how we recovered Q4 of 2020, $180,000 came in. Food and beverage, Q4, $10 million came in. So Camping World Stadium, same thing, Q4, $208,000, and then Q4, $2 million. And that's with obviously less events at the stadium and the bowl games included. These are some other things that we did during the pandemic. We did the COVID testing and vaccine sites. We did food drives. We did watch parties. Remember in the bubble for the Magic? Well, we weren't in the playoff bubble, but the city soccer was. So they had watch parties for them on Tinker Field. So we tried to stay busy with things we could do inside and help our community as well. And we served for the many times as a testing site and as a Regeneron site, as well as vaccination site. So a couple things I'll say about what's coming up and where we've been. So typically we do between 32 to 43 shows, concerts a year. That's not counting basketball games or Solar Bear games. Those numbers I can give you there as well. But usually between 32 to 43. This year we're on track to do 62 shows. To put that in perspective, in my world, that's a tsunami. And our staff has done an amazing job. And they I joke, we rested up for a year and a half, but we're making up for it in a year. But they have done amazing. We've never had this much business ever, and the shows are all over the map. It's classic, country, a lot of Latin shows, obviously in this market. A couple of things have happened. One is the performers, the entertainers, they only make money nowadays by going out on the road. So they were off the road for a year and a half to 2 years. So there was a pent-up demand on their side to come out and do shows. And then there was a pent-up demand on our side as patrons, wanting to get back together. We wanted to see things live. No matter how things are as good as we think they are on TV, I can guarantee you tonight, there's nothing better than being near the stage when Journey goes on the stage tonight. You just can't bottle that enthusiasm, that energy. You can watch it on TV and it won't look the same. But being there live is important. People have come out and done that. And I hope it continues. I don't know, obviously we're about inflation and the other R word out there that's out there, but right now we're enjoying it. And I say, when you live in a desert and it rains, you get buckets. And that's what we're doing, is getting a lot of buckets right now. This one I don't talk a lot about because, it's always a double-edged sword. But because we were municipally owned and operated, we were one of the few arenas that I'm aware of, probably the only one of our size, that received the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. That was a federal grant, and we received the full $10 million. All those. We did not receive any Triple P money, payroll money, because we didn't qualify because we were government. So we didn't get the Triple P money, but we got the $10 million Shuttered grant, it was quite a process. I'm glad my team went after that, and it helps us as local taxpayers not to have to worry about a burden that we carried, that we were able to replenish that. I have an amazing team that I work with. They are the best in the business. I met with them yesterday, had a thank you meeting, because I know how many hours they spent away from their families and how hard they've worked, and I really appreciate them. I know what happens is we're like cooks in the kitchen, right? You don't see us until there's a problem. So hopefully you never see us, but nothing would happen in our venues without the team that puts it together. And to give you an example is, this year we've gone from conversion, and some of you may have attended a basketball game on a Thursday night, a hockey game on a Friday night, and a concert on a Saturday night. There's just not a button we push to make that happen. It's a lot of labor moving that in and out, and we do it on a regular basis. And I'm really proud of those folks, and they make us what we are. So thank you you've been a great audience. I'll take any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alan, for the presentation, and thanks for the facilities that you have to direct here. My wife and I were two of those 70,000 people at the Garth Brooks concert last month, and it was awesome. Great venue, had a wonderful time. But I have a question about parking and access. I'm sure you're aware, but the show started an hour late because literally they waited to start at 1 hour because people were still trying to get into the stadium, and they were jammed up on the roads trying to get down to the parking areas. And then with that in mind, afterwards, we actually left about 10 minutes before it ended, in the middle of the encore. We missed Trisha Yearwood, unfortunately, but it ended as we were walking to our car. And our neighbor had also gone to the concert, and we got home 2.5 hours before they did. And the whole difference was that they waited until the end, 10 minutes longer than we did, and then they were jammed in parking and trying to get out to the roads. Took them 2.5 hours longer than it did from us leaving 10 minutes earlier than them. Is there any kind of plan in the works to improve access off the highways and the streets and the parking and so forth to handle that kind of a crowd?
So good question. And this even applies for the Amway Center. At 70,000 people inside that stadium, we're the second largest city in Orange County. We are the largest density of any city in the state of Florida that night. So if you think about that, dispersing that many people is always going to be a challenge. What we encourage everyone to do, and this crowd didn't do it as much as I thought they would. They did try to do Ubers and be safe, and I appreciate that. But we do have a shuttle system set up that works really, really well, that people sometimes are just adverse to do it. It's free. Once you pay to park downtown, we shuttle you. We have officers that work, or traffic control specialists work every intersection to make sure that shuttle goes through and traffic stops. So I always encourage people, the further away that you can safely park for yourself, if you have two good hips, the quicker you're going to get home, whether you leave 10 minutes within the show or not. Some people do that, and it's just actually even more of a rush. But we did have a couple issues on, there was an accident that caused on the 408 that caused a problem that wasn't related to the show whatsoever, but stopped from one of our exit plans. And then one of our, there was a stalled car that went out a gate that blocked it for a while until we got it pushed out of the way. So not excuses, but those are things that happen. We are, we only have about 9,000 spaces around there. Now, people can park in yards and down to Jones and other places, so you probably add another 10,000 cars that park somewhere else. But the more I can get people used to using the shuttle system and not trying to count on driving down there, it's going to be better for you. And I promise you, I'll get you home quicker. And that shuttle, there is a little bit of weight of the shuttle sometimes, but not that long, because we stack them and we load them just as quick as we can. We use the buses like right behind us, the fast load buses. So, but I appreciate that comment. And thing is, I go to Tampa and I go to a Bucks game and I leave there and I look at myself and I say, I wished I had 6-lane roads around the stadium like they do, and they can convert to one way and move people out of there. We do not have that. The closest we have is OBT, which is a mess on a normal day, not counting that. So until we decide to do something and with road work, and we are working with the 408, they're going to take a little bit of our land and put a new exit there that's going to help on that OBT exiting every day, not just on event days. But it's a good comment. We do work hard on it. And anyone that's been around there, if you have not driven on the I-4 and the I-4 Express and all the interruptions that we endured for over 6 years, especially, we're still enduring them over here on Huey, where OUC, the reliable one, is tearing up the road again to put in a new pipe. So again, I'd love this one here, right here next to a Sunrail. Get people to start using that once it starts running on weekends. It does run after Magic games now. We're trying to get them to go after concerts. Concerts go a little later than Magic games though, so that's been a burden right there. So, but hopefully we can do that. And they are doing it for Magic fans. Last year it was free. So if you think about that, and it's right at Church Street Station, and that'll get you to Malin, Altamont, wherever you go, DeBerry, the further up, Kissimmee, Point Siena. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for your presentation. I have read recently in the news that the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, is moving their headquarters from Greensboro, North Carolina, to either Orlando or Charlotte, North Carolina. What are the odds in favor of Orlando? Because that of course benefits more than with the employee base and so forth, employment and that kind of thing, in addition to the annual championship game that they have and so forth.
So it's a good question. They actually only have about 50 employees that we're talking about. We've been working with OEP, our economic division now, for 3 or 4 months with the code secret words and all that stuff. But they'd love to be here. What they have told us, they would move the football championship to the host city 3 out of 10 years. So that's the enticement for us to get, is that 3 out of 10 years. We'd love to have them, obviously. I think it's more about the byline and tagline, where any news that generates out of the ACC says Orlando on it. Hopefully we'll get some of the other events, some of their Olympic events, we call them, the Carlson Field, the hockey, soccer, baseball, other events like that as well, besides the football championship.
Alan, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I left out a whole big thing, World Cup. I don't know why that's not in here today. I just checked this last night. So World Cup, we're one of 16 or 17 cities, depending on whether Baltimore and Washington marry up, that are vying for it. We're going to know within May 19th. They promise us a date every 2 weeks, and that's huge. So we're still in running, and we're really in good position for that. It'd be a shame if they don't give it to us, but I think we're in good shape for it. Yep.
Am I right that Paul McCartney is coming in May?
May 28th.
And is there, two questions. Is there anything special that happens with that one? I know he'll probably fill up that stadium. Is there what do you recommend on how the best way to get tickets? And what's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen at any of the events?
Oh, wow. Okay.
For an extra $100, he'll sell you tickets.
First question is, time machine. I could get you better tickets when they went on sale, but we can still help you out. We're about 35,000 sold on that. Our capacity is about 42,000 for that. So there's still some tickets left. And Ticketmaster.com, I tell you, just go to our website, Ticketmaster.com, or you can go to the Amway Center box office. We sell them there as well. And there's less service charges there if you want to save a few dollars, and that's open every day. But there's still tickets available. That one is doing really well. We got Motley Crue and Def Leppard in June. Craziest thing, wow. So there will be a book upon my day of retirement and maybe the day of my death, because I'm not sure which time is going to be better. Craziest thing I've seen. All right, this happened. I was in Lakeland for 17 years, and U2 rehearsed there. And if you know U2, Bono is a extremely unique individual, and he had a no tie rule backstage. And I had gone to city council that day, had a tie on. I got called backstage for an emergency issue of some kind, and I'm just standing there, and he walks by, and I notice I'm not paying attention because I'm listening to the problem in front of me. Comes back with scissors and cuts my tie off. I haven't listened to U2 since then. That's the cleanest thing I can tell you, this group, all right? I'll think of some more on it. Yeah. If you mean the evening and have cocktails, that's a better speech. That's a whole different version.
So real quick, I'm just curious, for the screen on the exterior of Amway that faces I-4, how much does it cost for a sponsorship to be placed on that screen?
So we call that a marquee. That's what the Department of Transportation says I have to call it. It is a marquee, and you cannot buy advertising on it. So there's only two things that go on there, two categories. One is any show that we have is advertised half the time, and then the Magic have their sponsors that are their big sponsors. It has to be a high level. It's not just,
Like Lockheed? I've
yeah,
seen Lockheed.
yeah.
So
Harris.
the Magic owns the rights to that.
Yeah, so they have half the time, and it's 8 seconds because of the DOT rules about how often, like the billboards you see that rotate. But if it's an event inside, you can do that. And the other thing about the Magic's regulation is the product has to be made, produced, or consumed inside there. So we now sell Disney tickets inside there. We didn't do that before. You can buy a Kia in there by ordering on a kiosk. And let's see what else is crazy. Oh, Harris, you can do some services that they have. You can order services. So.
And I'm also curious if you guys have considered using 3D screens that don't require glasses anywhere in the stadium.
No, haven't. We looked at VR and things like that, and AI and things that we can do that would do that, but we haven't done 3D yet. I know that there are some theaters that have used them, and the Plaza has used them over here. But we consider anything.
Real quick, I know there was some discussion or some talk and planning about that space immediately, I guess, east of the Amway, right under I-4. Could you speak to that at all, or is that still in motion?
Sure. So it's called under I-4. Under what was it? It has a fancy name. There is a consultant that's been hired to design it. If you've been down there, and those of you remember before it, 6-7 years ago, it was parking. Generally, it's parking, and then there was some closed up area that just walled out. If you open up now, look by there now, it's wide open, but it looks like Transformer land because you have these huge support columns for the interstate above it, and then there's this wide open space in between. It's still being discussed. At one point, it was going to be some basketball courts, some playgrounds and things like that. And that is evolving because downtowns have changed since March of 2020, right? Occupancies right now, it's 50 to 60% of those big buildings. So it's really tough right now to think that, but we do have a consultant on board. They are in the process of drawing plans to look at. It is a year-long process. It's not fully funded. DOT has to give a certain amount of money to replace what we did. What my interest is, and of course I work for Mayor Dyer, so it's going to be his interest if I can convince him of it. I need an intermodal transportation area. I need places where people can go get ride shares, taxis, and eventually driverless cars or electric cars that are going to pull up there. So I'm really interested in keeping part of that for our purposes and keep our front door pure. And the Magic have hired a new developer for their property across the street from the Amway Center. That is Magic property owned by the DeVos family. So there are some exciting plans that they're probably going to be discussing publicly in the future that I can't discuss or don't know about.
Okay, we have some questions from some of our viewers on Zoom.
Okay. Do I get paid the same?
They have the same thing. Notice the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center was not listed as a venue. Is that one of your venues also?
It is not under operation. It's operated by a nonprofit, but the city does own the building in the dirt. It's a 99-year lease.
Do you have much leeway in negotiating the contracts?
For shows. Absolutely. And things I didn't learn in that degree from UCF in psychology, things I need to learn, risk management. babysitting skills, negotiation skills. And so so there's two big promoters, Live Nation and AEG. So instead of fighting every night, and we used to do that, they'd say, how many ushers? You didn't have 20 ushers, you charged me for 30, you only had 10. Instead of doing that anymore, we've decided we make deals that are based upon not pinch points that you can argue about. So we sign annual contracts so that every show is the same, whether it's Bocelli or, well, not stadium shows, those are negotiated separately, but if it's Eric Church, the deal terms are the same for every show. What changes is the gross ticket sales and what we make on the side. And there's incentives. So used to have that slide. So the way the music industry works is there's an artist who, rightfully so, should get the lion's share of the money. So when I show you those grosses of $2 million, the city didn't get that money. I mean, we got some of that money, but not much of that money. And then the next group is the manager agent of the artist who worked for him, her, they. And then the fourth group in the middle here is the promoters. And those are the ones that take all the risk. It's really a messed up business model, but it's been around forever and nobody wants to change it. So the promoter makes all the risk, guarantees the artist, I'll buy 40 dates across the country, usually it's 42, sometimes up to 50 or 2 legs. And they'll pay you $1 million a night for that. And then he comes back and starts squeezing us to how to get money out back to him, because he only gets, they let him make $100,000 basically on $1 million night. So it's a really bad business model, but we make it work. So we have relationships that we negotiate. We keep them the same, Live Nation and AEG. Live Nation brings most of our content, AEG is second. And then now we have 2 Latin promoters that are bringing, we have 14 Latin shows up from 6 previous 2019, pre-pandemic. So that's market's growing. We just had 2 Bad Bunnies that sold out. I saw several of y'all there as well. And you had another chance to see him in August at the stadium. So he sold out the arena, and the first show sold out 17,000 tickets in 5 minutes. The second one within an hour, and then he sold 30,000 over at the stadium a month later. So.
Alan, I have 2 last questions. One, the Magic Land you talked about, and it's going to be similar to what they have out in LA with the Clippers Arena, the big entertainment district.
So that's the original goal is a LA Live, if you will, or there's other cities that have something similar to it. It does include an office of something that people right now don't. The Magic only have about, well, lately they haven't had any, but they have 40 to 60 employees that are housed in the Amway Center. The other 240 were up at RDV before they had some problems. They're now in CNL 2. So that, and they also just are completing their Advent Health Training Center, where they're going to be moving the basketball ops. So those folks are going to be moving out of the Amway Center and then into the new Advent Health Training Center. And so, the exciting part about it is across the street, and does include an entertainment venue that we may or may not oversee. It's right now scheduled to be about 3,500 to 4,000 seaters. So it'll be bigger than Dr. Phillips. Shouldn't take anything from them. Smaller than us, so it shouldn't take anything from us. And that's going to be kind of a big House of Blues, if you will, or a big Hard Rock Live, for lack of they have a different title for it, but that's going to be exciting. Hotel, at one point, now Bally Sports was going to have a studio there, just like ESPN does in LA Live, where you can see the broadcast and post-game stuff. It's a pretty exciting area.
Right. One last question. How many trucks does it take to set up Garth Brooks' set?
Garth Brooks was 45 trucks.
45 trucks just for the stage. Okay. Alan, thank you for being with us. Thank you for what you do for our community.
Alan's group is the one that keeps downtown Orlando humming, vibrant, and keeps Orlando a great place to live. So let's give Alan another hand.